Oh, hello. I really didn't expect to see you here. I figured I would take a nice little cruise around the country, but since you're here, we might as well talk a little X-Files. Today we're looking at Drive, episode 2 of season 6. Premiering November 15th, 1998, Drive features a crazed man who takes Mulder hostage and forces him to keep driving west. Otherwise, his head might explode. The episode begins in the middle of a high-speed chase, which is always fun. I don't know what's going on with this lady, but is this supposed to be a prequel episode to Malcolm in the Middle?
Chuck, what did they just use there?
It looked to be a special tire puncturing chain.
Or as most people call them, spike strips. The police pull our runaway driver away from the car and save the hostage, though the woman in distress is actually the guy's wife. Now, I don't know what her issue is, but I don't think smacking your head against the window is gonna fix it.
She's banging her head against the window. What the hell just happened?
Oh yeah, I've had headaches like that, though they generally don't involve air cannons. Mulder and Scully aren't on the scene because they're no longer on the X-Files, duh. But they are checking to see just how much fertilizer some hillbilly bought, which is obviously just as exciting.
The hostage is still inside the car. It appears as though she's banging her head against the window. Chuck, something
At this time.
That's weird. Anyway, how's about that fertilizer? Mulder takes it upon himself to call the sheriff and offer their help. But of course, Scully has to try and remind him that they're on domestic terrorism duty and don't have time for anything spooky. But yeah, I don't think Mulder's gonna listen. I don't know how this guy can rest after his wife's head exploded, but it looks like he might be joining her. Mulder and Scully arrive at the sheriff's office to learn more about this Patrick Crump. And before all this craziness went down, he was pretty much just a normal guy. I can see how your wife's head exploding could drive you a little crazy. Scully decides she's gonna check out Mrs. Crump while Mulder speaks to the man himself.
And he headed east in this direction on the 5, about 10 miles to the Utah border where he stole the car.
You got it.
Mulder gets a little curious about the detour Crump took because he started off going east, then turned back and began going west. I mean, there has to be a normal explanation for this sudden change in direction. Not everything has to be spooky. Scully checks on the body of Mrs. Crump and maybe it's the lighting, but all three women here look like they have red hair. You know, it takes a real special person to just look inside someone's skull. Also, this feels like the kind of video I watch at 2 a.m. when I can't sleep. We are 6 seasons in and Scully still has not learned to, I don't know, wear PPE? Crump's health takes a sharp decline, so he's taken away in an ambulance. But strangely, his health seems to improve as they're on the move. The ambulance comes to an abrupt stop and it seems like Crump is the one in control.
Hey, you out! This last quarantine! Go!
If the room's supposed to be quarantined, maybe lock the door before people start walking in? Scully calls up Mulder to tell him what she found, and that she thinks this thing could be contagious. What I love is she keeps going on and Mulder's just like, yeah, He sounds so uninterested.
You're to have no contact with him whatsoever. Mulder?
Well, that's gonna be a little tough, Scully.
I know this is tense, but it plays out more comedic for me. Nice try, Scully, but remember what happened last time I tried to call your number?
It's late, and with the night comes thoughts of love and fantasy.
Scully tells the sheriff that they need hazmat suits and that everyone could be contaminated. Oh, so now she's worried about PPE. She quickly learns that everyone needs to back off Crump, otherwise Mulder's finally gonna get that hole in his head that he always wanted. Crump finds Mulder's badge and he's like, oh, it's you people. Of course it is. What do you mean, you people? The funniest part is Crump tosses out Mulder's phone and he takes so much offense to it. I've never seen Mulder be so upset over something as much as losing his phone.
What the hell are you doing? I'm composing a sonnet. What does it look like I'm doing? I'm slowing down for a light. Go! Go!
You know, Mulder picks up on the fact that driving seems to be helping this man a lot quicker than I would have. If it was me, he likely would have died a long time ago. Mostly because I drive like an old lady. Mulder now realizes that he's basically the only thing keeping this guy alive. He doesn't know exactly how yet, but it's obvious the driving is doing it. Crump somehow thinks Mulder's responsible for this. I don't know who he thinks Mulder is, but I highly doubt it's his fault. Oh, a roadblock, that can't be good. Fortunately, Mulder's too smart for some weak-ass roadblock and has taken a bit of a detour. Let's just hope this one doesn't have any invisible monsters on it. I think everyone can take a little breather though, because it seems like whatever's going on isn't contagious. At this point though, she'd probably prefer to be dead, because Kirsch calls and he's like, "So, what the hell do you think you're doing?" See, now if this was Skinner, he would have just ignored it and moved on with his day. Scully then has a very random eureka moment when she realizes the second death was a man who worked with power reading meters, and wonders if the man read the meter at Crump's place. I don't know how she came to this exactly, but let's just go with it.
You know, what kind of name is Mulder anyway? What is it, like Jewish?
Excuse me?
I mean, he's not far off. David does have Jewish ancestry, but didn't Crump become Jewish so he could use the jokes?
That which reminds me, did you hear the one about the rabbi and the farmer's daughter? Huh?
Crump starts throwing a fit, and Mulder quickly realizes that it's not just the driving that seems to help, but it's specifically the direction west. In the meantime, Scully and the Scooby Gang arrive at Crump's place, but who the hell is this? He also seems to have a very friendly dog. Well, he had a friendly dog. I'm sorry, X-Files, but killing a dog is an immediate 0 out of 10. Mulder starts asking questions, trying to piece together how this is all happening, though he doesn't really get much. Crump's wife just suddenly got a really bad headache, and while driving her to the hospital, he noticed the faster he went, the better she felt. I just think she was trying to get out of cooking breakfast.
I'm sorry about your wife.
Sure you are. You and the rest of your Jew FBI.
I know I'm not supposed to laugh, but Crump is such a huge piece of shit that I just cannot help myself. A bit of an issue has seemingly presented itself, however, because they're nearly out of gas. I mean, I guess they could keep walking west, but I don't think that would be fast enough. Back at Crump, Scully notices they have a neighbor. Oh no, not Petey.
Hey, ma'am, it's okay. It's alright, I'm sorry.
Scully, maybe knock next time before you scare the bejesus out of a little old lady? Although she is deaf, so I don't think knocking would work. Mulder quickly pulls up to get some gas, but the guys inside look like they couldn't even be bothered. They tell Mulder he needs to pay first, but instead he just decides to steal another car. I can't wait to see the look on Kirsch's face when he finds out how Mulder's day went.
Wait, what are you doing?
Pathology of this thing. It affects the inner ear.
What do you mean, what are you doing? The helmet was ruining her hair, clearly. Scully thinks that it's a sound they're dealing with and not a pathogen. But if it's a sound, wouldn't they want earplugs instead? Anyways, the sheriff calls her up and tells her Mulder left her a note. Cat dead, details later. Oh no, wait, that's from Reanimator. Mulder's note basically says, Crump sick, heading west, no roadblocks. Simple enough, but what's this spooky government box doing here?
The Jew stuff. No offense.
You know, you actually start to feel sorry for Crump a bit. Sure, he's a loudmouth who likes to talk shit, but can you blame him? Just that morning, his wife was cooking him breakfast. Now she's dead, and he's likely to be next. He's also very wary of Mulder. Crump doesn't like the government at all and has no idea that Mulder is only trying to help. And he also probably shares a lot of the same feelings about the government. Mulder even pulls my old tactic when I worked in retail years ago, where you take the customer's side no matter how angry they get. Just start agreeing with them no matter how crazy they're acting, and it always calms them down. Scully makes her way to some naval research station because she needs answers about their box. And does she get any answers? Well, not really. They were testing some radio equipment and there was a power surge. Beyond that, everything else is classified, including what a power surge like this could do to a human being. I don't know why she even bothered. These people are never going to admit fault.
Mulder, you know what ELF waves are? Extremely low frequency radio transmissions?
Yeah, use an antenna like 50 miles long. And the military uses it to communicate with the Trident submarines, Project Seafarer, Project Harp.
Scully calls up Mulder and starts dropping a ton of science-y jargon on him. Lots of talk about Project Harp and Project Seafarer. Basically, whatever the Navy has been testing is right under Crump's property, hence the spooky box. And it apparently can affect human tissue, even causing some kind of pressure buildup, which I guess explains the exploding heads? Scully seems to have some kind of plan, but she's not exactly sure that it'll work. She intends on sticking a very large needle into his ear in order to relieve the pressure. Now, Mulder does mention this would obviously leave him deaf, but he doesn't say it's going to be done to both ears, so maybe he just meant deaf in that one ear? It was probably just thrown in for dramatic purposes, and I'm probably overthinking it. The men are given police escort to an awaiting Scully, but it's a little too late. Mulder wasn't able to save Crump in what has to be one of the most depressing endings in the series. And just to make things worse, Kirsch chews them out for their spending habits and for trying to save a man. Kirsch even says, "You're no longer on the X-Files." Okay, that's great, but who said this was an X-File? They just happened upon something out of the normal. It's not like they went into the office and stole a case file. God, I hate Kirsch. Drive is easily one of the best episodes of Season 6, and one of the best of this series in my opinion. Bryan Cranston is so good as Patrick Crump, and it's no wonder he was eventually cast as Walter White on Breaking Bad. What I love is how much of a jerk Crump starts off as, and even though he doesn't necessarily change all that much, given his circumstance and everything that has happened to him and his wife, you start to feel a bit sympathetic. I wouldn't blame a man who hates a government because they killed his wife. I think that's a perfectly reasonable excuse to hate them. Unfortunately, Mulder takes a bit of the brunt of that hatred, despite being on Crump's side. The end reveal is a pretty tough watch too, because everything is played so well that by the end you're hoping that maybe this man can be saved. But obviously we can't let that happen, because then we'd have another man going on a crusade to expose the government. Crump by the end has become his own evidence of their misdeeds, so his death is really the only way to keep them from being exposed. It's still a pretty bleak ending, and I can only imagine what must be going on in Mulder's head during that moment. Imagine doing all you can to save this man, only to witness his head explode in your back seat. I don't care how strong your will is, seeing something like that can only chip away at someone's mental stability. Of course, the real drama of Drive wasn't just in the on-screen action. The story behind how it came together is just as wild. The episode was written by Vince Gilligan, who admitted it was partly a nod to the 1994 action movie Speed, but Drive had another more unusual inspiration. Gilligan remembered an episode of Homicide: Life on the Street, where a man was pinned by a subway train. The only thing keeping him alive was the train itself. As soon as they moved it, he'd die. The rest of the episode was about finding his wife so she could say goodbye. The twist, however, the guy treated everyone around him like dirt. The challenge was making the audience feel for him anyway, and Gilligan loved that idea so much that it became the emotional template for Drive. Gilligan, who was already known for some of the X-Files' quirkiest episodes, also had a much stranger starting point for the story. For 2 seasons, he'd been joking in the writer's room about an opening scene he couldn't quite fit into anything. His idea was a carnival in full swing, families eating cotton candy, kids laughing, when suddenly a SWAT team comes charging through with guns ready. Their target? A man on a tilt-a-whirl holding a hostage at gunpoint, threatening to shoot if the ride stops. Gilligan could never figure out where to take it, so it became a running joke. One day, while joking that maybe his head would explode, Gilligan actually started wondering, okay, but why would his head explode? And that's when the real story clicked into place. Being a fan of weird military experiments, Gilligan thought about the real-life controversies over the Navy's use of extremely low-frequency radio waves for submarine communication. That, combined with the speed structure, became Drive. Except instead of the bus being the bomb, it was the passenger's head. Gilligan later called Drive the hardest script he'd ever written, but the end result was both a tense action piece and a surprisingly emotional character drama. Director Rob Bowman said the highlight was the shifting relationship between Mulder and Patrick Crump. 2 men forced together in a high-stakes situation, moving from panic to anger to mutual respect. Gillian Anderson was equally impressed, saying, "It was a great script, a great premise. I thought they carried it off really well, especially the actor who played Crump, the guy in the back seat. He was just phenomenal." I love how Gillian doesn't even name him. She's just like, you know, that guy who said the words on the page and did the thing? He was great. That actor, of course, was Bryan Cranston, though he almost didn't get the part. Casting director Rick Milliken initially had someone else lined up. Cranston came in to read for a different role, but showed up with a beard, messy clothes, and exactly the look they needed for Crump. Milliken let him audition anyway, and as soon as Cranston started reading, it was clear that they found their guy. Gilligan specifically wanted someone who could be frightening and unpleasant, but could still make the audience care when he died. He later said Cranston was the only actor who could pull off that trick, a skill that would later land him the role of Walter White in Breaking Bad. AMC execs were initially unsure, knowing him only from Malcolm in the Middle, but Gilligan showed them Drive, and well, the rest is history. As for the fictional Project Seafarer that caused the episode's head exploding problem, it wasn't entirely made up. It was loosely based on real military communication systems like HARP and ELF, which bounce powerful radio waves through the atmosphere or the Earth itself. Officially, these projects were harmless, but some insiders told X-Files researchers otherwise. Still, with their mix of science, secrecy, and controversy, they were perfect fodder for the X-Files. Drive currently sits at 8.5 on IMDb, and I think this one is so good that I'm probably going to give it a 9. Up next is another one of my personal favorites, as Mulder boards a legendary World War II ship in the Bermuda Triangle that just might be a portal to another time, in the episode Triangle. So what do you think about Drive? Let me know down in the comments. Anyways, I'm just gonna enjoy this little drive some more, but I hope I see you in the next one, and stay spooky! Oh god!
You're to have no contact with him whatsoever.
The slower you go,
Your life is in my hands.
the faster you die.
Almost like a little bomb went off in her ear.
We're just some kind of government guinea pigs.
The specifics of what we do here are classified, ma'am.
The X-Files. Don't miss it. Sunday at 9, 8 Central on Fox.